Hey there, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Sonya Maya if you don't know me already. I have a clinical psychology doctorate and I'm a SMEGS therapist, and I like to talk about sex and relationships and psychology. So if you like that kind of content, hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on bell notifications. Today I want to take a moment to react to some horror stories, hookup horror stories, dating horror stories that I found on Reddit. And I don't know if they're that entertaining. I just like screenshotted a few so I can just react to a few, because I want to have, a blind reaction, as they like to call it. Shall we? Yes, we shall. This may not be considered a horror story, but I'm telling you anyways because it was horrifying to me, lol. I met a guy online and we chatted for almost a month before we actually went on our first date. We hit it off immediately and had a lot in common. We laughed a lot, and the whole date went really well until the end of the night. Dun dun dun, dot dot dot. You know, the end of the night when it's a bit awkward for some and you're waiting for that end of the night kiss or some sort of goodbye. Yeah, and I know what they mean. I was sitting in the passenger seat in front of my car and we both awkwardly leaned in and we went the same way, so it was going to be a miss. Hard to explain. I think I know what they mean. It's like you're both going in and then it's like, because you have to synchronate, you know? Anyways, we both paused and tried to adjust our positions and he panicked and went, and grabbed me around the neck like I was his little brother and says, "Come here, you," and proceeds to noogie me. He gave me a noogie. Oh, I think I know what a noogie is, but let me remind myself real quick. Noogie definition. Rubbing or tapping someone's head with your knuckles. That's what I thought. Like, oh, noogie, like that. Okay. It hurt slightly and my hair ended up a freaking mess. He let go. I stared blankly at the front of the car. He laughed awkwardly. I laughed awkwardly and got out of the car. Neither of us ever spoke to each other again. It's been years and my friends and I laugh about it now. He was harmless. He just panicked. Aw, he noogied her. That's an interesting move. I mean, that's a pretty particular ick, but it's so specific. I wonder why he thought that that was like the move. But I could totally relate to going in for the kiss, but you're not on the same page. Kissing can be so interesting, and sometimes you kiss somebody and you want to have like a slow romantic kiss, and then they want to go in with that heavy metal, and you're just like, whoa, whoa, I'm just trying to do like some smooth house beats, and you're all like, womp, 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 like, you know what I mean? It just doesn't match. Took a woman away for a second date. Took a woman away? You mean like out? I don't want anyone taking me away. Interesting. For a second date. Rented a nice apartment in Newtown. We went for some drinks and she couldn't handle her alcohol. She ended up trying to slap a bouncer when he asked her to leave. Dang. She took off her shoes and was walking around without shoes on the wet floor. I ushered her home, bathed her as she was sick, and put her to bed. Halfway through the night, I felt her get up and stumble about, assuming she's going toilet, and didn't think much until I heard her peeing in the corner of the bedroom. I was mortified, but she was not conscious. I got her back into bed and cleaned up. Needless to say, the drive home was quiet and she didn't hear from me again. Yeah. Oof. That's rough. I wonder if some people, they get really drunk because they're very nervous, but then they end up making a fool of themselves, like getting sick or, slapping a bouncer or trying to, or peeing. Yeah, that is a rough situation. Don't blame me for not taking her out again, but I have seen people post stories like this from the side of the person who did the embarrassing thing, and most of the time they feel pretty bad about it afterwards. But we're human, we make mistakes. Went on a first date with someone a few months ago. Off to a bad start. We met at the restaurant, and while waiting for our table, he struck up a conversation with one of the band members. He obviously knew him and kept yapping until we were seated, did not introduce me, which was awkward. Okay, I've been in situations like that where you're like with a friend or you're like I'm not on a date for me personally, but you're with people out and then they run into people they know, but then they don't introduce you and you're just like, hey, how you doing? I'm just here. The band member came over to our table to talk with him 2 more times through the date. I was finally introduced half-heartedly the first time. He spent the next half hour bragging about how much money his family had, and the rest of the time would not shut up about his music career, recording in Nashville, even called himself a B-list musician with only a couple hundred monthly listeners on Spotify. So he's like, I'm all that. It's interesting. It's like there's confidence and then there's like the narcissistic trait confidence. And no, I'm not saying like NPD, personality disorder, but like a lot of us have narcissistic traits, and that's a narcissistic trait, to just talk about yourself the whole time. Not cute. At dinner, he struck up a conversation with the pretty blonde bartender for like 5 minutes. Okay, he did not introduce me either. Okay, well, in that case, and this is just devil's advocate here, but if the bartender isn't someone that he knows, then you can introduce yourself, right? Why does he have to introduce you to the bartender? It's a random bartender? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he knows her too. In that case, it's a little bit off. Gave me one compliment the entire night, which was, and I quote, "Sorry, this may just be the musician in me, but I love the way your hair blows in the wind." I don't know. I think that's kind of sweet. Nothing wrong with that. Wasn't sure how to respond to that. It was comically a horrible date. He also insisted on kissing me afterwards, which was not cool. But did you do it though? Not like it's our business, but she put like a cowboy hat. He insisted on kissing me afterwards, which was not cool. Because cowboy hats aren't cool either, apparently. I don't know. So someone said my date ended up being a double date with his mom and her OkCupid date. Whoa, like a double date with his mom and her date from OkCupid? He told me that he and his mom were a package deal. I was mortified and there was no second date. I mean, I guess at least he put it all in the open. That's like mama's boy to the max. I can't go on a date unless my mom brings a date because we're a package deal. Oof. That makes me think of like Think Like a Man, like the whole mama's boy thing. But, you know, like I said, at least he's upfront with it from the beginning. You're going to be not only getting a boyfriend, but you're going to get an immediate mother-in-law, which is disturbing and definitely not, yeah, I wouldn't like that. I would be like, what the fuck is going on? You don't want to meet someone's parents in the first or second date. That's definitely skipping over some milestones. Someone said, that reminds me of a story from high school, although not a dating story. I knew this kid from school. His dad was a Episcopal preacher, and he and his kid were huge Star Wars fans, but never had the chance to see it on a big TV. At that time, the average TV was like 27 inches, and this was like 50 inches. Anyhow, halfway through the movie, it's nighttime and pitch black out in the rural area. Why is rural so hard to say? The kid tells me his dad would love to see this movie on the big TV. He then tells me his dad has been waiting outside the house in his car in the dark the whole time, on the off chance the kid could work it into the conversation and the dad could come inside to watch the movie. Cue me waving at this car in the pitch black for this guy in the full black suit with white collar preacher. Whoa, to come inside and watch the rest of the movie with us, which is half over by now. My parents watching this guy walk inside in the middle of the night looking horrified and wondering what the fuck is happening. Why the hell is there a preach lurking in the darkness, randomly waiting to watch the rest of Star Wars? That is so weird. I wonder what was going through the dad's mind. It's like, when are they going to invite me in to this date? Just because the TV? That is, wow. It's like that person's using you for your TV. Him and their dad. That's crazy. Not me, but I worked as a bartender for a while and I heard a lot of horror stories secondhand. So this one girl who was a regular came in and told me about an awful Tinder date she had. Not sure of the specifics, but it wasn't bad enough for her to not bring him home afterwards. He leaves the next morning. She brushes it off as a one-night stand, and after a few days, her debit card gets declined. Odd, since she is the bartender herself at a fairly busy place in our city and is good about saving and fully flush with cash. She goes to check her debit card and there's a bunch of charges at Best Buy, Grubhub, and a bunch of other stuff. Curious, she checks her credit card too and she found a bunch of charges for streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Sling, and everything. Wow, she goes to confront the guy and finds out he deleted his profile. Wow. But she remembers a friend they had in common on Facebook. She reaches out to the mutual friend to try to track him down, and it turns out he did the exact same thing to that mutual friend. Whoa, so one night stands on Tinder and then he just steals your credit card and just buys stuff. Not sure what the outcome was, but she was out for blood after a mediocre hookup that turns into a serious case of identity theft. Wow, that's crazy. That reminds me of, there was like a Tinder thing that went viral. on TikTok, I think it was like last year, where this guy hooked up with this girl and stole a pair of shoes. Like, insane. It is insane. It's like, I mean, the Tinder swindler was a whole situation, but this is like a mini version of the Tinder swindler. I sexted with this really hot girl after matching for about a day, and she starts getting all kinky with me. She then tells me she's actually a guy trolling me. I said, joke's on you, cause I'm bi. He unmatched. It's okay. I wonder if the person who was trolling you was also in the closet, but, you know, toxic masculinity type of thing. I'm gonna get this guy to flirt with me, unknowingly that I'm a man. Mwahahaha. But that's a good comeback, though. I went on a date with this guy who I didn't really have anything in common with, but thought I'd give him a shot anyways. We met up at a bar, and he had already pounded 2 pitchers of beer, but was completely sober, at least from what I could tell. We hung out and talked, and he seemed nice enough. I wasn't quite feeling it. I wanted to leave, but he convinced me to go to the bar and get one last drink. Yeah, that's one of those things where you gotta have boundaries, or at least, I don't know, a backup plan of like, oh, someone's calling me, my friend's in the hospital. Seeing as it was only about 8 p.m., I agreed to one more drink. Nice of you, you didn't have to. We were sitting at the bar and a couple was making out next to us. He looked at me and asked what I thought people in the bar would do if he and I started making out. I knew where this was going. I tried to laugh and make a joke about no one paying attention. He insisted that we should make out. No. I nervously laughed and told him it wasn't a very good idea, and I excused myself to the restroom. I came back to the seat and he had a shot waiting for me and insisted I drink it. No shot for him, just me. Oh my god, that is such a red flag. Ugh! I declined and he got really upset and said he was ready to go. At that point in the evening, he had consumed 2 pitchers of beer, 4 margaritas, and 2 pints, yet displayed no sign of being intoxicated. Nonetheless, I knew there was a lot of alcohol in his system and asked if he thought it was a good idea for him to drive. Definitely not a good idea. He got extremely defensive and said he was fine. We exited the bar and he took off in the opposite direction. When I got home, I texted him to make sure he was okay because he had so much to drink. His response, quote, "I only date girls I fuck on the first date," unquote. I dodged a bullet with that one. Oh my god, that's so gross. Wow, it's really nice of you to still check in on someone who's being such a douche. But that is messed up. Oh my gosh. Yes, it sounds like a very insecure man, which is probably why he was getting so drunk. And then, you know, of course, thought it was okay to say something like that to you when it definitely isn't. I went on a Tinder date a couple months ago on a Sunday afternoon. Met up with the guy around 3. He had a really good energy and was funny and complimentary. The place we wanted to go to had a long line, so we went to another restaurant on the water for a drink and appetizers. He started slamming down Mai Tais. Oh god, another one. I had 1, he had 3, they were strong. Like, I was tipsy, borderline drunk off of 1. And the bar had a 2 Mai Tai per limit, but he found another bartender to get his 3rd. Sneaky. He got drunker and drunker and started telling me he loved me, joking at first, but getting increasingly serious. As we left, he asked me to marry him. I kind of laughed it off and was like, maybe we can take it slow. We just met each other, obviously. He got so mad, he stormed off and left me on a street corner. Then as soon as he got home, it was 5 p.m., he started texting me, "Come over and I miss you." He was 4 to 3. WTF. Someone was like, "I think maybe you dated my ex. I'm so sorry." Wow. So are there a lot of guys out there that are like that? They'll get like super drunk and then they'll start saying, "I love you and let's get married." And yeah. Man, alcohol is one hell of a drug. I've been waiting for the right thread for this. After a movie date with a guy I met on Tinder, we came back to my place. We'll call him Dude. I told him we could hang for a bit, but I have to work in the morning, so I would need to go to sleep soon. Dude said that was fine, but he was hungry and he was going to order food. Okay, sure. Dude orders 2 large subs from Potbelly and a milkshake. Downs it. No judgment. He's 6'4", 210 pounds, younger, still growing. By all means, I didn't think any of it until later. Foreshadowing. We end up messing around a bit and fall asleep in bed. I wake up to my front door opening and closing several times over a 5-minute period. My dogs are going nuts and it's 1 a.m. What the heck is this guy doing? I open the door to my room that opens up to the rest of my apartment, and my bathroom is to the left where the light is on and the door is wide open. I walk around the corner to make eye contact with Dude, who is in a squatting position over my toilet with a stick poking around in a murky brown poop water that is millimeters from overflowing onto my bathroom floor. Horrified, he yells, "Stop looking at me! Go back to bed! I have it under control." Aw. I'm still waking up, trying to understand what I'm seeing and what's going on. I just start nervous laughing, and I don't know what else to do. He yells, "Why don't you have a plunger?" And I said, "I don't know, I've never needed one until now." Moral of the story, get a plunger. He tells me to go back to bed. He has it under control. I'm so disturbed, tired, can't process what's happening, and I have work in the morning, and I go back to bed. I remember hearing him peek in my room a bit later and heard, "I fixed it," and then I heard him leave and my door closed behind him. The next morning, I hesitantly approached my toilet to find the water is down, but there is something poking from the bottom of the toilet like he didn't get it at all. Upon further inspection, what I was seeing was the tip of a stick, some gloves, towels, and barbecue tongues. Later, I pulled out approximately 3 foot of stick from my toilet that he had broke off, followed by several other stick fragments. Dude had broke several sticks. I heard my door open and close so much because he was going outside to look for a stick. One would break in the toilet, I guess, and then he would go get another. Dude had left drippy poop water stains all over my bathroom floor. He also left my apartment so fast that he left his underwear, his undershirt, and his socks. After work that day, I went straight to the store and bought a plunger. Lesson learned. Yeah, definitely need a plunger, but that is very embarrassing. I mean, that's gotta suck to blow up someone's toilet and then there's no plunger. Like, what do you do when it starts overflowing? Dude was like resourceful but not effective because he was grabbing sticks and the sticks would break and then more sticks. But yeah, that's rough. Not me, my dad. Not Tinder either, it was Match.com. My dad had been on Match for about 3 months with some success. He's a tall Australian man who's decent looking, so he had some interest. One weekend, he got his first nude, which he thought was strange, but he brushed it off. Later that week, he got 6 more nudes from the same woman. Before he blocked her, he decided that he would open them just for kicks. Just for kicks. 5 of the pictures were straight up vag shots, which he said were incredibly unappealing and had terrible lighting. The 6th picture, however, was something different. First off, let me just say, that is so uncommon. Like, you hear about D-pics all the time. Unfortunately, I get them. But vag shots, I mean, I know it happens, but it has to be so rare. That's so interesting. I wonder if it's like a voyeuristic type of thing. But it's also like non-consensual and still not cool whether you have a taco or a burrito, in my opinion. The woman was standing in her bra in front of a mirror, puss out, winking, with a bunch of herbs shoved in her bra. Basil, parsley, thyme, all that good stuff. The caption on the picture was "Spice Rack." It's actually kind of funny. She was swiftly blocked after my dad stopped laughing long enough to find the block button. Wow. That's hilarious. But yeah, you know, consent. You could be like, "Hey, would you like me to send some spicy photos?" Literal spicy photos. Usually when I say spicy, I'm like thinking like, oh, haha, jalapeno dick, like my video from last week. But yeah, she's talking about them spices. Basil, parsley, and thyme all up in her titties. That's pretty funny, but still not cool though. Like, don't do that if someone's not asking for it. All right, so this one is an actual horror story, apparently. Real life Tinder horror story. My friend told me this horrific story yesterday, and it has to be the scariest thing I've ever heard. So I felt like sharing it to remind everyone to be safe and cautious. This happened to a friend of mine not too long ago. So this girl matched with a guy on Tinder and went on a couple of dates with him. On the first 2 dates, they went for coffee and walks outside. She really liked him, thought he was friendly, good looking, etc., and thought they clicked. For the 3rd date, the guy suggested that she should come over to his place and have some wine. She agreed because she felt safe and comfortable at that point. So the time comes and she goes over to his place and he pours her a glass of wine. Things seem to go well. They joke around and enjoy a nice walk. After a while, she starts feeling funny. Now, luckily, this girl had already been roofied once before, so she immediately recognized the effects once they kicked in. She was extremely clever in the situation and pretended she was feeling fine. She told him as cheerfully and energetically as possible that she was going to quickly use the toilet, as to seem like nothing was off. Smart. Once she was in the toilet, she locked the door and immediately called the police. She told them she was drugged, locked in the toilet, and that they needed to come get her out of there. Pretty soon after, she passes out. She wakes by the police, but is still very drugged, so kind of slides in and out of consciousness. All she remembers is the police putting a bag over her head as they carry her out of there. She was saved. A few days later, she asked to come down to the police station to give her declaration of events. After doing this, she asks whether she remembers the police putting a bag over her head correctly, or if it was imagined due to the drugs, or what was up with that. Yeah, I was thinking that too. They tell her they indeed put a bag over her head because they decided it would have been too traumatizing for her to see as they carried her out of the room what he had prepared and set up for her in the living room. That sends shivers down my spine, the person who's writing the Reddit post said. Whoa. I wonder what he was going to do. Oh my God, that's awful. The guy ended up in jail, and to this day, she doesn't know what he had in mind for her, but it's clear that this was a very messed up, incredibly scary situation that could have ended horribly. Please, 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 always let someone know when you plan on going on a Tinder date. Even if you feel safe, even if it's not your first date, always ask a friend to call and check up on you during and after to let someone know that you're safe. Wow. Wow, that is so scary. She definitely handled that well. You never know. I mean, like, you think that you know someone, right? And it wasn't even the first date. But that's a really good point, because sometimes you might feel really comfortable and not tell anyone. But if you're going to be alone with a guy, then always do that. So yeah, we ended with a definitely a scary one, but I'm glad that she caught him, because she could have saved a lot of other people from whatever he was doing. You know, I watch a lot of true crime, and it helps prepare me for things like this. At least I would like to hope. So yeah, those are the stories on Reddit. There's a lot of interesting ones. Safe to say, it's difficult to find people that you like, and people can be scary. They can do embarrassing stuff when there's a lack of compatibility, and even when you feel like there can be some really uncomfortable, awkward moments. So I enjoyed reacting to these stories. I don't know about you. Let me know which story stood out to you below. Are any of them gonna stick with you? Has anything like that ever happened to you? Have you had a Tinder hookup horror story? Because maybe I'll react to yours, because I did do a couple videos that were reacting to your hookup horror stories, but this is more like dating app related. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's pretty long at this point, so let me end it right there. And yeah, make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, and turn on bell notifications, and I will see you next week. Everyone, please make pleasurable decisions and decisions, because you deserve it. Goodbye. See you next time.